Once upon a time in the heart of Imperial Russia, there reigned a family whose name echoed through the golden halls of palaces and whispered across the frozen steppes of a vast empire, the Romanovs. With wealth beyond imagination and power that stretched across a sixth of the earth, they seemed untouchable. But behind the shimmering veil of royal luxury, a darker tale simmered, of omens, blood, betrayal, and a mysterious man named Rasputin who, some claimed, saw the end long before it arrived at in 1613. The Romanov dynasty was born amidst chaos and uncertainty, chosen by a desperate Russian nobility to bring order after the time of troubles. For over 3 centuries, the Romanovs expanded their influence, built cities like St. Petersburg, and shaped history with iron fists and gilded crowns. But with every passing generation, the weight of power grew heavier, and whispers of a curse began to haunt the throne. To be why the dawn of the 20th century, Tsar Nicholas II had ascended to the throne. He was a man of family values and religious devotion, but many considered him weak, indecisive, and ill-prepared for the demands of a rapidly changing world. Russia was seething with unrest. Revolution stirred in the hearts of the poor, while the nobility clung to a decaying system. Amid this storm, fate introduced a man who would forever alter the Romanovs' destiny. Grigori Rasputin. He was a peasant, a wanderer, a mystic. Some called him a prophet, others a fraud, and still others, the devil himself. But to Tsarina Alexandra, Rasputin was a savior. Her son, the heir to the throne, suffered from hemophilia, a deadly condition that caused his blood not to clot. Doctors had no cure, but Rasputin, through whispered prayers and a stare that chilled the soul, seemed to ease the boy's suffering. Alexandra was convinced he was sent by God. As Rasputin's influence grew, so did the court's resentment. Nobles feared him, priests denounced him, and the common people were baffled by his proximity to the throne. But he remained, whispering to Alexandra, guiding decisions, and warning of what was to come. In one of his most famous letters, Rasputin wrote, "If I am killed by common men, you and your children will rule for centuries. But if I am killed by nobles, your entire family will be gone within 2 years." Those words would become a prophecy. In December 1916, a group of aristocrats lured Rasputin to a palace with promises of wine and pleasure. They poisoned him, shot him, and finally drowned him in the icy Neva River. And with his death, the wheel of fate began to spin faster. The empire teetered. In February 1917, revolution erupted. Nicholas II was forced to abdicate. The Romanovs were placed under house arrest. Hope flickered, but Rasputin's words hung in the air like smoke. Within months, the Bolsheviks seized control. Lenin, ruthless and determined, saw no room for monarchs in his vision of a communist utopia. The Romanovs were moved to Ekaterinburg, to a modest house that became their prison. On the night of July 17, 1918, as the world slept, a brutal chapter came to a close. Nicholas, Alexandra, their 4 daughters, and young son were led to a basement under the pretense of relocation. There, in cold silence, bullets tore through history. The entire family was executed, their bodies hidden in the forest. The Romanovs were gone, just as Rasputin had foretold, but the curse didn't die with them. Legends began to grow. Stories spread of Anastasia surviving the massacre, of a royal heir wandering Europe in disguise, and of Rasputin's ghost haunting those who betrayed him. Scholars dismissed them, but the public clung to the mystery. For many, the fall of the Romanovs was more than politics. It was divine punishment, but Rasputin's predictions didn't stop at the family's death. He had spoken of global wars, the fall of empires, and the rise of darkness in Europe. Some even claimed he foresaw Stalin, the Holocaust, and nuclear terror. But were these true prophecies or the invention of frightened minds desperate for meaning? One thing was certain: Rasputin's shadow lingered. His diaries and letters, filled with cryptic phrases, are still studied today. "I see fire in the north, blood in the east, and the eagle's wings torn from the sky," he once wrote. What did he mean? Was it madness, metaphor, or vision? The Romanov dynasty ended in blood and betrayal. But Rasputin, the peasant who rose to whisper in a queen's ear, remains an enigma. Was he a prophet, a curse, or simply a mirror reflecting the chaos that always lurked beneath the royal facade. Years after the fall of the Romanovs, Russia was reborn as the Soviet Union, a nation built on the ashes of monarchy. But even in the steel cities of communism, the ghost of the imperial family and the mystery of Rasputin refused to be forgotten. They became symbols of tragedy, of prophecy, of a lost age. And the question still echoed: did Rasputin truly predict everything? In exile, scattered Romanov relatives spoke of dreams and nightmares, of visions Rasputin had once shared in quiet halls. One claimed Rasputin warned that the empire would not fall from outside enemies, but from betrayal within. Another remembered him saying that Russia's soul would freeze for 100 years before it breathed again. His cryptic words were etched into memory like riddles to in the decades that followed, as the Soviets denied religion, destroyed churches, and erased monarchist memory. Rasputin's name became taboo. He was painted as a mad monk, a villain, a charlatan. But in secret, people still whispered. Was it possible that this wild-eyed mystic saw what no one else could? In the early 1990s, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, excavations near Ekaterinburg unearthed bones believed to belong to the Romanovs. DNA tests confirmed what history feared. The prophecy had come full circle. Their remains were finally laid to rest, and the world mourned them anew. But even then, Rasputin's warnings still haunted the silence of their tomb. Some modern scholars argue that Rasputin was not magical, just incredibly perceptive. He saw the fractures in the empire, the rise of unrest, and the blindness of the Tsar. Others believe that he truly possessed a supernatural gift, that God, or something darker, had touched him, that he once said, "My death will be your death." Was it a threat, a curse, or a warning born of love for a boy he healed? No one can say for sure. What is undeniable is that his presence changed history. Without Rasputin, would the Tsarina have trusted so blindly? Would the people have revolted so fiercely? Would the monarchy have collapsed so completely? The mystery deepens when one examines his other writings. He predicted, "From the east shall rise a red storm, and it shall devour all kings." To many, this was the Bolshevik Revolution. Another line reads, "A bear shall sleep for a century, then awaken with fire in its paws." Some link this to Russia's resurgence after the Cold War, that Rasputin's life was filled with contradictions. He preached purity but was surrounded by scandal. He claimed divine vision but lived as a man of flesh and flaws. Yet even his enemies feared him, not just for what he did, but for what he knew. In recent years, interest in Rasputin and the Romanovs has surged. Films, books, and documentaries attempt to unravel the truth. Was he a healer or a heretic? A guardian or a destroyer? The lines remain blurred. One of the final mysteries came in the form of a letter discovered in an old monastery. In it, Rasputin had written, "The crown shall fall, the blood shall freeze, and the land shall wait. But one day, a voice from the bloodline shall rise, not to rule, but to remind." Some believe this referred to a spiritual return, not a physical one. A return of values, of memory, of the lessons history etched in blood. Others take it literally, believing a descendant of the Romanovs will one day return to restore what was lost. For now, the world can only wonder. The Romanov family lies in silent graves. Rasputin lies elsewhere, buried in a burned-out monastery, his bones long scattered. But the legend lives. The curse, the prophecy, the fall. It is a tale that continues to haunt. Perhaps the greatest truth is this: history is not written by the victors, nor only by the survivors. Sometimes it is written by madmen with vision. And sometimes, just sometimes, those visions come true.